question, common mistakes, stuff like that. And then if you see something that I didn't talk about or you're not sure why something is wrong, let me know. As I'm going through this, make sure that you are fixing it on your own so you understand that better for the test and don't make those same mistakes on the test. Okay. So starting with the first objective. Number 1, you have to write an equation that is parallel to this one, so uses the same slope, but a different y-intercept. It can be the opposite of this, it can be some other number, it just cannot be the same. Otherwise, those are the exact same line, we don't want that. So that was worth 1 point, getting that correct, right slope, different y-intercept, and having your y and your x. Number 2, go ahead. Number 2 is the same. You had to find a line that's parallel to this one. So the slopes have to be the same, so it has to look similar to this one. So y equals, pick another number. It could be the opposite of this one, something else. That was also worth 1 point. If you change that to x, you got a half off, because that would be a perpendicular, not parallel. If you wrote y equals -4, those are the exact same lines, so we need different numbers. Questions on that section so far? Christina, before you go to your seat here. For number 3 and 4, you had to find perpendicular equations. So flip the slope, and if it's already negative, make it positive, and vice versa. And then you can put the same slope, a different slope, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, y-intercept, not slope. And then for 4, same thing. Remember that all whole numbers are over 1, so take that, flip it. This was positive, make it negative. Keep the y-intercept the same, change it, doesn't matter. Okay, questions on that section? So those were each worth 1 point. And then 5 through 8 were all worth 2 points, 1 for the work, 1 for the answer. For 5 and 6, these were parallel, so the slope would be the same. So we're going to ignore the y-intercept they gave us, use the slope they gave us and the point in our point slope formula. Y minus 1 equals -3 over 2 times x minus 2. And I'm going to set up number 6 at the same time. Y minus -4 equals -3 times x minus 5. And then you would go through and start to solve. Distribute. Double check your math in the calculator. Some of you got -3, which threw everything else off. Or some of you got a positive but not 3, so double check your math. And then add 1 to both sides. So y equals -3 over 2x plus 4 was our final answer. And unless you got all A's or B's on this, or maybe even C's, you should all be paying attention. Six is similar, except here you have to add or make it a plus before anything else. Some of you were not doing that, which messed up your answer. Again, double check your signs, double check your math. and then get rid of 4 by subtracting it to the other side. So y equals negative 3x plus 11 should have been your answer. Carolina, Danny, you guys need to be paying attention. Okay, questions on those two so far? Seven and 8 are similar, except now we're dealing with perpendicular. So the slope is going to change. It will no longer be negative 4. We're going to take it and flip it and make it positive. We'll deal with just 7 and then we'll talk about 8. So then ignore the y-intercept they give you. Y minus 5 equals 1/4 times x minus 4. The setup is the same. Then distribute and solve for y. So this would be 1/4 x minus 1. Again, double check, your math. Some of you weren't getting that. Add 5 to both sides. So y equals 1/4 x plus 4 should have been your answer for that one. Questions on that one? For 8, because this is perpendicular and the slope here is undefined, we need the opposite, where the slope is now 0. And then you could have either done this with work or without work. With work, you would put the 0 in your formula just like you would usually. But when you go to distribute the 0, 0 times anything is just 0. So all of this side just becomes 0. And you add 2 to the other side. So y equals 2 should have been your final answer. Without work, you would have to piece this together in your mind that the opposite of an undefined slope is 0. The only type of equation that is a 0 slope is a y equals. In your ordered pair, it tells you what y is. Y equals 2. And you would write that down. So you could do the one with work, or 0 slope only. You cannot do this with undefined. You have to know it for undefined. But you would have to make everything 0 and then solve. Questions on that one? For 9, this was worth 3 points. 1 for finding the original slope and y-intercept, or just slope, which some of you had but forgot the negative, or some of you flipped, so be careful with that. So your original slope was -3, your original y-intercept was 2. So for A, it has to be parallel, so the same slope, but different y-intercept. So -2 would work, any other number would work, just not +2 again. And then B would have to be perpendicular. So now a positive slope with whatever y-intercept you want. Questions on 9? Taylor?
Why is it -2 instead of +2 for A?
For A, it can't be the same thing as what's already given, because then it would just be the same line. So if I were to draw this one, just so you can see what that would look like. I can tell that these are parallel lines, they're not going to intersect. But if I had put +2, it would be on top of the one that's already there. Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on. For those of you that followed your instructions, most of you did fine on this. There were like some minor mistakes. Those of you that weren't following your instructions missed a lot of this. For number 10, because I forgot the numbers continuing. You're looking for which of these best represents y equals -3x plus 1. So find the one that is negative, so it can't be A, it can't be C, so it has to be B or D. And then the only one that matches -3x would be D. The points surround that one the most, so D was your answer. That was worth 1 point. All other ones you had to use your calculator to put the data in. Let's do this instead. So for number 11, you have to find your line of best fit and answer the question. That one was worth 2. So I'm going to quickly go through this. Stat, edit, put your data in. If there's anything in there, clear it. You don't have to redo this part with me, but you can to get practice if you so choose. To put your data into stat edit, you may not, if you just started, you may not be on the same pace as I am. I'm going to keep going, but if you need me to go back to something, just let me know. Then stat, scroll over to calculate, number 4. You should be scrolling down to store regression equation, hit alpha trace, and enter until your screen changes. And writing this out. So some of you were writing like A equals B equals, but I need this in equation format. Up to 2 decimal places, some of you were putting 1, and that was fine. Just be careful with your rounding. So somewhere I needed to see what your line of best fit was. That way if your answer was wrong, maybe it was your equation that was wrong or something else. Then the question asks to find the length of time. So we're looking for our y when her niece is 15. So I would store 15 for x, so 15 STOX, enter. And then grab my equation again from alpha trace. So that would be about her time, 90.34. I accepted, 39. I would accepted 90.4. 91 was running too much. And then be specific, we're looking for a length of time, so this should be seconds. I think that was probably the most missed thing, not putting the label. So that was worth 2 points. Questions on that one? For 12, similar, except you need to change your years first. The first year is always 0, and then count how many years has it been since. So since 2000, it would be 4, 6, 7, and 8. So you would put this into your table. And once your data is in, go back to stat, scroll over to calculate, number 4, store regression equation, hit alpha trace, and enter to your screen changes. Again, 2 decimal places was good, more than that was fine. 0.9, 7.09 was okay, 0.9 and 7.10 was okay. Rounding this to just 7 and 1 was not. That was way too much rounding. So somewhere on your paper, I needed that equation. Some of you also put 0.9 instead of 0.09, so be careful with that. And then we're looking for the prediction or the population in 2020. So that would be 20 years from the original. So we would again store that for x. 20 STOX. Grab your equation from alpha trace. So some of you put that entire thing, which was fine because it's in millions. 8.84 was also fine. 8.8 was also fine. 9 was too much. So millions, in millions, population, something that tells me you know what the label is. And then remember that interpolation means that this is asking for is, does this fall inside the data? Extrapolation is outside of the data. This would be an extrapolation. So that was worth 3 points, getting the correct answer, your line of best fit, and extrapolation or interpolation. So for this, it was you get it right or you don't. And then the last one, they just needed the equation. So you would go back to your stat, edit, put all that data in, use your instructions, go back to stat, scroll over to calculate number 4, store regression equation. Actually, in this case, you don't even really have to do that because you just need the equation. So y equals 29.4 or 41, x minus 162.01 would be your answer. So that one was worth 1 point. Did you get your equation correct? any questions on this entire page? The last section was probably the most missed because we either didn't get to it or we just didn't do the work. So most of these you needed to define your variables, set up an equation, solve, and get your answer. So majority of these were worth 4. I think 14 was worth 3. The 1750 per was your M. The $35 deposit was B. The time in hours was X. And the total cost was Y. So if you didn't have that, or didn't have all of that, that was worth 1 point. Be on the lookout for the word per, because that's going to tell you M. One-time fee, you're only doing this once, so that's going to tell you B. If you're not sure about X and Y, you can ask which depend on which. Does cost depend on time? Does time depend on cost? Because cost depends on time, whatever depends on the other is your Y. You can also look at your M to figure out which one's Y, which one's X, because it's Y over X. So cost over hour would be your Y over X. So that's worth 1 point. Your equation, putting in all of your numbers, you don't know Y, you know M, you know X, and you know B. That would be the equation I need to see in your equation box. This one I didn't give you an extra point for like solving because you could have put, all of this in the calculator at the same time. And then making sure you have your label for your solution, 131.25 was that final answer. Do you have any questions on that one? For 15, similar, we have a per, so that's our M. We have a one-time fee, so that's going to be our B. And then we have gains and paid 47. That's going to be our Y, and gains is going to be our X. In this case, you could have used point slope formula, but a lot of you weren't doing that, and I accepted that. So our equation, if you weren't using point slope formula, would look like this. 47 equals our M times our X plus our B. B is what we don't know. That's what we have to solve. And then this one, you needed to actually do the work. Yeah, I can see your calculator. I just don't know. You have to set up your equation and solve. So this is the equation that will go down there. I'm not going to rewrite it. So having the correct equation was worth 1 point, solving was worth 1 point, and your final answer was worth another. Do we have any questions on that? Of the 4, I think those 2 are probably the easier ones. So make sure you're getting at least something, partial credit, defining your variables, trying, something like that. Is anyone still writing this down before I move on? 16 you could have done one of two ways, algebraically or in the calculator using your line of best fit instructions. Fastest way would be to do it in the calculator, so that's what I'm going to do. But you still have to define your variables. You have to look at what's given to you. Here we're given two different things, square foot and cost, square foot and cost. Those two things are related because the amount of square footage affects the cost. Because of that, that has to be an input-output situation, an X and a Y thing. So defining your variables would look something like that. And then you could either find your slope algebraically, find your equation algebraically, and then use that equation to find your answer algebraically, or use your calculator, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to go back in stat edit and put these numbers in, 850 and 1,000. And then 1,172 and 1,268. And then do the same process. Follow my steps. Stat edit or stat calculate, number 4. Store it in alpha trace and enter until my screen changes. If you were doing it algebraically, you would have got a fraction instead of a decimal, but both were fine. So y equals 0.64x plus 628. And you would say that you use line of best fit to get that. Christina. To where?
Just to see like what you need for.
And then if you want to do the next part in your calculator too, you're more than welcome to. Or if you wanted to do it by hand, you have the equation, you have your x, you're looking for y, and you can put that in. So I'm going to, since it's already in my calculator, just put this in for x. So I'm going to write that I stored this for x. That way I know this is like my work, me showing my work. 1200 STOX. And then grab my equation from alpha trace. And 1396 would have been that final answer. So this one was also worth 4 points. The equation, the solution, defining your variables, and if you did it in the calculator, showing me this, because that would be your work. Questions on that one? Christina.
X1 bottom, what is the other one in the problem?
The 1,000 is x2, the 1268 is y2. For this last one, because it's comparing two different things that aren't really related to each other, nickels and dimes, they don't affect each other. This one, you have to use the ax plus by equals c. Some of you were still trying to use the y equals mx plus b, but that was not correct. C is always your total, so start there. A and B are usually the numbers given, but in this case, they're not given because it's something you have to know. The nickel's worth and the dime's worth. Some of you are putting 5 or 0.5. Be careful because that's not 5 cents. then again, some of you are putting 10. Make sure that's 0.10. Since V is the worth of dimes, this would be Y, the 46, and the number of nickels we're looking for would be X. So that would be you defining your variables. That would be worth 1 point. Setting up your equation then would be your second. And it would look something like that. 0.5, I'm sorry, I should put in Y. 0.5x times, or plus 0.10 times 46 equals 5.45. And then you can start to solve. Yes.
How do you know that the dimes are Y and the nickels are X? How do you know that?
It really depends on which one you put for A and B.
So does it matter if I flip it in any way?
So if I put B for nickels, then my number of nickels would be Y. They just have to go together. So dimes and its worth have to go together. Be careful with your decimal points. Some of you were losing those, which was making the answers weird. Also, look back at your answers. Some of you were giving me, so the question asked for number of nickels, and some of you were giving me decimals. If you look back at that, you should realize that doesn't make sense for this answer. Christina.
When you subtracted 46
on 0.46 or 4.6.
how come it's not like
Here or here?
there it's a decimal, but on the other side.
It is. It's the 4 is just was with it.
Where did the
The 4.6. We multiplied 0.10 and 46 to get 4.6. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to give you all an option, so if you're sitting by someone who has their head down, tap them. We can either take the test that was already scheduled today, and then keep moving forward like normal. Your flex day is supposed to be next Wednesday, so that would be a chance to work on retake stuff for this. Or make today a flex day to give you a chance to practice more. Friday would be your test, and next week we would not have a flex day. So test today, everything like normal, or test Friday, no flex day next week, flex day today. So I'll give you like 30 seconds.
No way.
Yeah, go ahead and make the pass. So we're going to vote and majority rules. If it's majority flex and you still want to take your test, you can do that, and then flex for you would be on Friday. But if it's majority test, then everyone's taking the test today, or at least starting it. Okay, so who would rather take the test today? Right, that's what I thought. That means your test is Friday, no matter what. And today is your flex day. You will not have a flex day next week, which means you would have to come before after school to start your retake process because our next flex day won't be till the end of November. And you have to be actively practicing, not just using this time to be on your phone. Does everyone understand what I just said? Yes. Okay. So today is your flex day. You are using this time to practice.